Mohamed Salah, 17 million followers. Mbappe, 10 million. Paul Pogba, 10 million. But this mind-blowing fame doesn't just come from being the stars of the world's most popular sport. All their actions are frantically followed and broadcasted by reporters living in relative obscurity. Reporters desperate for a big story. Desperate enough to even make stuff up. But look at this account. It has 13 million followers. It has more than Robert Lewandowski and Kevin De Bruyne. And it's not a footballer, it's a football journalist. So how did Fabrizio, someone who merely reports the transfer of footballers, grow an audience larger than many footballers themselves? It all comes down to a concept called slow journalism.
Here we go.
But to understand this fascinating journalistic approach, we have to take a look at Fabrizio's journey to the top, how he acquired such a large following and the moments that changed his life and football forever. If you walked into a high school in Naples, Italy, you would see this kid, just another 16-year-old, coming to the terms with the fact that his dream of being a footballer would never come to pass. But if he came back after school got out, you'd see that same 16-year-old writing articles about Italian football. Unlike so many young boys who let football become something they sat back and watched as adults, he wasn't going to let his love for football die. He was going to find a way in through journalism. But there was one massive problem. Where does a young unknown journalist get reliable information as transfer news? La Masia. Fabrizio was close to the young players at La Masia and he would focus on getting as much information as he could from them because that was his only source at the time. Until one day, something happened that went on to change his career forever. Fabrizio's phone rang and it was a call from an Italian football agent asking him for help. The agent asked, "If you can help me, I know you're a young journalist, but could you do an article on two players I'm talking with?" The players were Gerard Deulofeu and Mario Icardi. It was a big moment for Fabrizio. An established football agent was asking him for help. He was mind blown. Deulofeu and Icardi were at La Masia at the time. Fabrizio happily wrote the articles for the agent, and as a reward, the agent promised to provide him with exclusive transfer news. And that news was Icardi's transfer from La Masia to Sampdoria in 2012. This made Icardi the first player to have his transfer written by Fabrizio. Icardi's agent provided him with the exclusive transfer news, all because he helped him with the articles. It was sort of like a thank you he would give Fabrizio for his second time, because that simple act of helping the agent out would earn him his second transfer exclusive that turned out to be his big break into the transfer world. Icardi's move to Inter Milan in 2014. The agent had given Fabrizio an heads up of the deal 6 months prior, and when he announced it, this was when he got worldwide attention. Young Fabrizio was living his dream as a journalist. But despite his newfound fame, he was still a novice in the transfer market, and nobody would trust an 18-year-old journalist to deliver accurate transfer news. At this point, he was a novice journalist looking to gain the experience needed to climb up the ladder. He needed to build some sort of social authority. But the problem was, what news outlets would be looking to hire an 18-year-old journalist? Oh, there was one. Sky Italy. Sky Italy trusted Fabrizio and employed him when he was only 19 years of age after graduating from the Catholic University of Milan. This would prove to be a pivotal point in his career because it helped him build contacts with agents, intermediaries, and clubs all over Europe. Working with one of the most prestigious news outlets in the transfer business took Fabrizio from that young boy who broke the Icardi news to one of the most respected and well-informed journalists worldwide. So well informed, in fact, that I was going head-to-head against European clubs on transfer news. One of those clubs was Manchester City. Back in 2015, there was a little feud between Fabrizio Romano and Manchester City. Jovetic was to join Inter Milan from City, and Fabrizio reported it because he's a journalist, and that's what journalists do. But imagine the shock when City outrightly denied the transfer. Everyone was surprised. The Guardian contacted him to verify the transfer, but all he said was, "Trust me, it's going to Inter." 3 days passed and it was done to Inter, and this convinced the Guardian to start working with Fabrizio, another stepping stone in his career. While at the Guardian, he started getting some recognition for his credibility. But Fabrizio's mentor taught him the journalistic concepts that gave him all the advantages he has today, Gianluca Di Marzio. Matteo was a top journalist in the transfer market, and he chose Fabrizio to be his successor, connecting him to various top clubs around Europe. There's nothing easier than having a mentor show you the path in your field. It's like driving your Tesla on an autopilot. One of the greatest lessons Fabrizio learned from Matteo was a concept called slow journalism. Before we go into what slow journalism is, let me show you a good example of where Fabrizio used it. Cucurella's move to Chelsea. Fabrizio had spent days verifying this deal with club sources, intermediaries, and agents, making sure the deal was done before finally reporting it using his phrase, "Here we go." But suddenly, Brighton released a statement saying, contrary to inaccurate reports from numerous media outlets this evening, no agreement has been reached with any club to sell Marc Cucurella. To which Fabrizio boldly replied, "We'll see who lied." And this deal was Brighton and Hove Albion versus Fabrizio Romano, with his integrity on the line. Who won? My man Fabrizio. Days later, Cucurella completed his move to Chelsea, once again cementing Fabrizio's place as a top journalist. He's so good, he could tell you the gender of your baby before you decided on a name. It's what I like to call the GOAT of the transfer window. But how does the GOAT journalist conduct his day-to-day activities? A normal day for Fabrizio starts with him calling his sources all over Europe, trying to get some transfer news after sleeping for only 5 hours. He once said his sources would kill him if he revealed them. He goes about his day texting, calling, sending WhatsApp messages all day, and sharing news on Twitter. Sometimes he makes up to 50 calls in a day. 1, 2, 3, 4 to 50. Now, what exactly is slow journalism? When a story breaks, every journalist wants to be on top of it, but not Fabrizio. He waits and verifies with not only clubs, but also agents and intermediaries before finally announcing the deal himself, hence the name slow journalism. It's important to him to report all the latest transfer news accurately rather than simply finding a way to be the first or something. If he can be first, perfect, but accuracy is the most important thing, Fabrizio said. This was what would help him skyrocket his career to becoming one of the most trusted sources in football journalism, sometimes even more trusted than the club's media accounts. In a world where fake news and rumors can spread quickly like wildfire, Fabrizio Romano stands as a beacon that filters through and feeds football fans worldwide with confirmed transfer news. When you see him tweet about a transfer, you just know it's happening.